OK, we're going to start with Chelsea, though, and the bids are all in, of course, to take over the club. As you can see, Chief Reporter Kaveh Solhekol joins me now, busily scribing away there. Look, loads of interest, as we thought. Who are the serious ones, though?
Well, there was a development late last night that was first reported by the Times newspaper about a new consortium who we did not know about, and they submitted a bid late on Friday evening. Of course, the deadline was 9 p.m. on Friday. Now, this consortium is made up of 4 bankers and hedge fund managers who are all based in London. Importantly, they're all Chelsea season ticket holders. They are Jonathan Lurie, Bob Finch, Nizar Al-Bassam and Garth Ritchie. And they have confirmed that they have also made an offer for Chelsea. We also know another British-based consortium, of course, led by Nick Candy, the luxury property developer and Chelsea supporter. He's backed by 2 South Korean companies, and he has been speaking recently about how he wants fans to be involved in the club going forward. They'll have a golden share, they'll have a seat on the board as well. When it comes to other leading contenders, of course, there's a lot of interest from America. Investors in America, the Ricketts family, who own the Chicago Cubs, they have made a bid. Also, there's the Burley-Wiss-Goldstein consortium that's led by Todd Boehly, who's the part owner of the LA Dodgers. So they are there as well. And another British consortium led by Sir Martin Broughton. Also involves Lord Coe, and they are backed with money from Vivek Ranadive, who is a billionaire tech company owner who also owns the NBA side, the Sacramento Kings. So there is a lot of interest in Chelsea. Lots of bids did go in. There's a lot of serious money being put on the table. Now it's down to the Rain Group, the investment bankers who've been appointed by Roman Abramovich to handle the sale, to whittle down the bids to maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 contenders, and then put it in front of people at Chelsea, Roman Abramovich, the UK government, and then finally the Premier League.
Well, I mean, a stupid question, really, but why is it so interesting for people to get to Chelsea then? You know, is it a good investment?
I think Chelsea supporters are right to be very wary and very cautious, because the one reason people want to buy Chelsea ultimately is to make money. They can talk obviously in public about the fact that they've got Chelsea supporters on board, they're backed by Chelsea supporters, but the reason especially US investors who don't have much of a link with the club are interested is they want to make money. They look at the Premier League and they think this is the place to be if we want to make even more money than we're making out of US sports. And obviously Chelsea have been used to, for the past 19 years, somebody putting money into the club, not taking money out of the club. We had the situation at Manchester United because they were bought in a leveraged buyout by the Glazer family, that something like up to £2 billion has been taken out of the club. Roman Abramovich has put £1.5 billion into the club over the last 19 years. And I think that is going to change, because if these investors, bankers, hedge fund managers take over, they want to make a profit. That's their ultimate aim. That's what they do. They take money from very rich people and they invest it to make even more money. And a lot of the time, the money that they spend when they buy something is money that's borrowed from a bank. So they have to pay the interest on that as well. So I can understand why Chelsea supporters are being quite cautious and quite careful when it comes to all these people who are talking up their bids and what they're going to do for the club in the future, because I don't think anyone is going to treat Chelsea the way Roman Abramovich has treated it going forward.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. So could the landscape of Chelsea and the purchase of players and all those sorts of things be really changing ahead in the next few years?
Chelsea are a very successful club, but they have been underwritten by Roman Abramovich. And we talk about this £1.5 billion that he's put into the club, and people think, my God, he's crazy, why has he done that? But in actual fact, he has been quite clever, because he bought the club for £140 million 19 years ago. He's turned that £140 million into £3 billion, we're being told, maybe the club could go for at the moment. So even though he's put £1.5 billion into the club, he has made a phenomenal amount of money out of Chelsea. But of course, his assets are frozen, so he's not going to be able to get his hands on any of that money. And he himself has said that he would like to give it to a foundation that he's going to set up to help all the victims of the war in Ukraine. But I think going forward, when investors look at Chelsea, they'll be thinking, where does the money come from? The main driver is broadcast rights. Premier League TV deal, Champions League TV deal. That they're going to be banking on the fact that that's going to carry on growing and growing and growing, although recently it has plateaued. They'll be looking at, we need to make money from match day income. Money comes from that. Of course, Stamford Bridge needs redeveloping. To increase that, they're going to need to build a new stadium. Also, the commercial side of the operation, doing all these commercial deals, can we make more money from that? So they're going to try and sweat every part of the club to try and make more money. And of course, making more money, where's that money going to be coming from? It's going to be coming from supporters. It's going to be coming from fans and also the companies that they do deals with. But at the end of the day, it's the fans who pay to watch games on television. It's the fans who pay to go and watch games at Stamford Bridge. And one thing I'll also say about redeveloping Stamford Bridge is a lot of people are saying Stamford Bridge needs work, it's not a great stadium, all this sort of stuff. But it's going to cost probably at least £1 billion. And if you redevelop Stamford Bridge, that £1 billion, that's going to be borrowed from a bank. That is going to have to be repaid. So the club will have to repay all that money as well. So that'll affect their finances going forward. We've seen, for instance, Spurs have a magnificent stadium, probably the best stadium in the world, but it's cost them about £1 billion, and their debts now are about £800 million. So that's something else to look out for as well.
OK, brilliant stuff as always. Thanks for now, Kaveh. Right, new owners at Chelsea will provide an opportunity, as Kaveh was saying, to change the way the club is run, and fan involvement looks set to be part of it. Now, former Chelsea winger Pat Nevin explained why that's important.
If you're running a football club, it's usually millionaires and multi-millionaires, and trying to think what the real fans think and what the real people think, you can get lost there. I mean, just recently there'll be a couple of things. I mean, Chelsea back in the Super League when they did. I mean, it was really, it was nonsensical when you thought what the vast majority of fans felt. Had they had some sort of fan involvement in the board, I'm sure that wouldn't have been able to get through. And then as recently as the debacle over the Middlesbrough game, when there was a suggestion that the Middlesbrough fans shouldn't be allowed at the game. I mean, if you put that to a fan, any normal fan, they'd have told you not to go that direction. And of course, Chelsea took that statement back very, very quickly. But if you've got people that are grounded, real Chelsea fans that have a love of it, but also have a love of the game, and any club whatsoever, that sort of thing is less likely to happen. So, in short, an involvement with fans on the board, I think it can only be a good thing. Getting control, I think that's just unlikely.
So in light of what's happened with Chelsea and, of course, Roman Abramovich, a new owner of the club and how they've made their money will be under extra scrutiny. Well, Nevin explained the complexities involved.
The leagues have got sometimes is they look around and say, right, we do what is legal, and can you prove someone is not fitting proper persons? And it's kind of hard for them, I think, on a hunch to think, well, we think they've done something illegal, so we're not letting them in. You need to prove it, and that's sometimes very, very difficult. It would be nice if the game didn't have to rely on super, hyper wealthy people. Unfortunately, it seems to have gone down that road, and if you don't go down that road, you will be left behind. So if you are Newcastle, if you are Manchester City, if you are Chelsea or whoever, if you don't have huge hundreds of millions at the very, very minimum, you're going to languish. And that's the question you're asking. Yes, you can have nice owners, and it would be lovely, and that's certainly what I would prefer, and I would prefer that everyone had that you had to go to the league and you have absolutely clean. However, it's not always going to work like that. The world's not like that. And the other side of it is, if you do go down a very strict fit and proper persons ruling, that's fine. I'm on your side, but you might not get that money in, and slowly but surely someone else will take over as the world leaders in football.
OK, for more on this, we can speak to Sky News business presenter Ian King. Good afternoon to you, Ian. So, look, tell us what happens now, and what is the time frame as well? When can Chelsea fans get their new owners, do you think?
Hi Vicky. Well, as you know, the deadline for bids to be submitted passed at 9 o'clock on Friday night. Bids submitted to Rain Capital, the US investment bank. Now, it's said that there are some 20 bidders in total. We only know the identity of around half a dozen of those or so. New names keep bringing into the frame, including a couple over the weekend. Now, Rain Capital are expected over the next 48 hours or so to narrow those down to about 3 or 4 bidders who will be shortlisted. And they take it from there. The situation is complicated, as I understand it, by the fact that a number of the bidders are revising the terms of their offers at various points. So it could be a while yet. Now, in terms of the really serious ones, we've obviously had confirmation today from Centricus, the asset management firm, that they are interested in bidding. Very weighty, credible bidder, run by the likes of Garth Ritchie, who was a former senior banker at Deutsche Bank here in London. They're also supported by Jonathan Laurie of Cheney Capital, a London-based hedge fund, and Bob Finch from Talis Capital, well known in the tech sector. So some credible names there. To those, I think, in terms of the ones that you have to really look at as being the front runners, you'd say the Todd Boehly, the LA Dodgers co-owner, offer with Hans-Jörg Weiss is one to be taken seriously. And I think the other one to be really taken seriously is the offer from the Ricketts family, the co-owners of the Chicago Cubs, and also they've teamed up with Ken Griffin of Citadel Capital, very, very wealthy hedge fund manager. I think they are probably the front runners. Next, you'd probably put the consortium being led by Martin Broughton, the former Liverpool chairman, of course, and Lord Coe. They have some very credible backers involved as well, including Josh Harris, formerly of Apollo, another US hedge fund, currently a shareholder in Crystal Palace, so he'd have to divest that. They're probably the top 4 front runners right now, you would have to say.
Ian, the cynic in me says, lots of talk about who these owners are, but will the club not just accept the bid which is worth the most?
Well, logically, you would think so. I mean, it depends on, obviously, the key priority for the UK government is that not a penny of the sale proceeds goes to Roman Abramovich. So one would assume that this is something that we know the government is taking very seriously. And the UK government does have an involvement here because it's imposed an asset freeze on Roman Abramovich's assets here. The UK government seems to be taking very, very seriously this notion that all the sales proceeds would go to humanitarian causes, helping the relief effort in Ukraine. So if the government has anything to do with it, then that's where they will want to see the money going. And on that basis, you would assume that they would be wanting to see the highest possible offer for this business.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Look, just away from this, Manchester City have topped Deloitte's money list, overtaking Barcelona. Can you just explain how significant a moment that is for the club?
Well, I think the key thing with this list that you have to bear in mind is that this is based on finances over the last couple of seasons, during which, of course, top-flight football right across the continental of Europe has been affected by COVID-19. Obviously, gate receipts are sharply lower than where they would have been, match day receipts accordingly as well. So you have to look at this with that information in mind. And if you take the top 10 of the number of clubs that are in this Deloitte listing, well, only around 4 of them actually saw their revenues go up during the past 12 months. The majority of them have seen their revenues falling. Now, obviously, among those was Barcelona, whose financial plight has been well documented. The fact that they've, for example, had to part company with Lionel Messi. So you have to take that into consideration, I think. The fact that Man City are top of this list, though, well, I mean, they're not unused to coming top of tables these days, and I suspect it will probably be there'll be some symbolism attached to that. It really does underscore, I think, the fact that the shifting sands within European football and where the money is these days, the fact that Man City are are now top of the table. I suspect if we're looking at this in 12 months' time, who knows how much money the Saudis will have ploughed into Newcastle United over the 12 months between now and then.
Yeah, you make a good point. Thank you very much, as always, Ian.